So today is the day before Halloween. It's the 30th, and so tomorrow we'll go trick-or-treating with all of the kids. But this is Genesis Animation. And what I want to do today is to tell you a little bit of the history of the story of Starlight and Genesis Animation, how that all came to be. So as we walk up here, you'll see that the offices are decorated for Halloween. I'll introduce you to a couple people as we go into my offices. But here you'll see the webs all around, the spiders, everything's ready for Halloween. As we go into the main lobby, or entry, these are the offices of Genesis Animation, the lobby area. And back behind the desk is Honey, and Honey is the office manager. So Honey, say hi. And then you'll see over here, we've got pictures of Starlight. So there's a big banner of Starlight standing right there, the 3D model for Starlight, the young version. I'll actually show you the older version today too. She's gorgeous. And then a big poster here, of course, of the concept art right here in the lobby. And then as you come in here, you go through and we'll go directly into my office. So down here, and then on the right is the studio office, the IT section down there at the end of the hall. Over here, we've got the main row of offices. Ike and Jackie's offices are down there. And then here is my office. So in here, you'll see our my things and my posters and some of the projects we're working on. And again, of course, Starlight up here at the front. But so I want to tell you a little bit more about Starlight. Starlight's a fantastic project and really quite a miracle. Before I jump into why I call it a miracle project or the beginnings of this thing as a miracle, I'll show you what we've done so far in the development and pre-production. Welcome backstage on the production of Starlight. This exciting 3D animated feature film is about angels and it's set in heaven. We're able to create worlds and characters that have never been seen or really understood at a deep level. The idea of making angels and the world of angels is fun and exciting, and welcome to the development process on this wonderful project.
With Starlight, it really does kind of touch at the heart. It actually goes a little bit beyond a typical Hollywood movie. It actually goes into, the spirit worlds. It goes into heaven. It goes into all these different realms that no film has actually ever done before, and that's what brought me to wanting to be a part of this project.
day changed everything.
Starlight is a great project, and it's really just beginning. The next steps will take it much larger. We'll have to expand to several hundred artists, programmers, animators, and really make this movie on a large scale. But why did I call it a miracle? The miracle of this is really in how it came to be. And it was during a time in my life about a year ago where I was making a few changes, and I've been working at developing feature films for years, and the process is hard, it's long, it's creating the stories, the screenplays, but then on top of that, the business plans, the artwork, the organizations, all of that to try to raise funds for a film, which is a very difficult thing to do. Films are often considered risky investments, and so the investors in films outside of Hollywood studios are kind of few and far between, and it's hard to raise these kind of funds. And so for years I'd been doing that, and over the course of the years I kept thinking, well, I'll think this through, I'll plan it all out, and then I'll ask God for help. I'll ask Him to help me get these things done. And I'm a Christian, I have a belief in God, and so I believe in the power of prayer, and that I can ask for His help in various things. But my wife kept bringing up that she believed I was doing it wrong, but that I actually just need to find out what He wants and do that. And our children, we homeschool our children, and so they went to a private school called the George Mueller Academy, and as they were going there, Drennan researched some of what George Mueller had done and who he was. And he's an amazing man. He's a Christian guy. He had had some trouble, went to jail when he was younger. Then he, straightened up his life, became a Christian. And he and his wife went forward with the idea that they would not ask anybody for money in their life, but that they would ask God and rely on the promises of God that he'd left. And then as he was going through his life, he got inspired that he should help orphans. And so he prayed and asked if that was right, and he felt confirmed in his heart that he should do that. And then he started an orphanage, but he never asked for money. He decided that he would only ask God, and people just donated, and the donations came, and he built this, his first little orphanage. And when he didn't have money and there was no food for these orphans, he recounts these stories about how there would be like 40 orphans in the room waiting for breakfast, and they had no food. But he would just set them down, and they would pray, and then he and his wife would go off and pray in the kitchen, and he would pray and ask for food to come, and it did. There would be a doorbell. The doorbell would ring, and someone would have food. And he just recounted these miracle after miracle after miracle. But in the course of his life, he raised over $100 million, the equivalent of $100 million, and built the largest orphanage in all of England. And it was all done through donations, and he never asked for a dime. And so I turned to Dren and I said, well, let's do that. I'm tired of asking people for money. And so I decided I would not ask for money for these movies anymore, and made that a commitment. I told my partner, Steven Zabisky, I told my friends, I told the people that were looking for funds for me that I'm not going to ask anymore. And then take it a step further, my wife and I decided that we would make that complete paradigm shift, that shift from, okay, I have my will and I'm going to ask God to help me with it, to I'm going to find out what He wants. And if it means throw this all away, throw the movies away, throw Sandman away, throw all of the things that I've worked for my whole life away and do what God wants, that I would do it. And that's a tough thing to really do. You hear about people saying that all the time, but to really put it in practice, that's not an easy thing. So I decided that I'm willing to do that. And so my wife and I prayed about it, and I decided that let's go that road. And so as we prayed about it, I got the inspiration that, hey, send out applications and apply for jobs. And so I did that. I went to Indeed.com and I filled out a bunch of applications, and I sent out about 20 applications just for random jobs that were creative in the areas that I had some skills. And I got one call back. It was from a small company, and it was to be a UI UX designer. And so I went to that interview, and the morning of that interview, I woke up at about 3 in the morning and just had this strong impression that said, prepare for this interview more than you prepared for anything in your entire life. And so I did. I laid in bed for a while thinking about what to do, and then I woke my wife up and I told her about it and said that I'm going to go into the office early and I'm going to prepare for this interview. And she said, okay, go prepare for it. And so I got up, I left, I went to the office, and I pulled up my computer and I pulled out all these old projects that we'd done, whether it's G.I. Joe mini games or Race to Witch Mountain or apps that we had built, things that we had done for EA, Monopoly, Connect 4, the Stan Lee project, all of those. And I didn't just print out like a picture of the final product or anything. I actually printed out the wireframes, the thinking behind it, and how we created the project, and what were the steps. And I wanted to show the whole process and really show what I do. And so I created this binder, and it was a fairly thick binder, and I page delineated it, and gave it a table of contents and a cover page, and made it look really nice, and printed it all out in color. And then I went to my interview. And when I went to the interview, I went into this little IT section. It was actually a building that was just across from here. The Miu Holdings, the company that's funding Starlight, has several companies it was funding, and their IT division was in another building. And I went into this room, and it had a row of IT people, and the guy at the end of the table was a young guy, about 23 years old, Korean guy, and he was the one that was interviewing me. And so we went into a side room, and he brought another guy about the same age, and they started to look at my resume and ask me some questions. And so as they were asking the questions, I handed them the binder and told them, well, this really shows what I do. And so I took them step by step through the binder, and at the end of it, they were pretty amazed, and they said, well, you're way overqualified for this position, but if you're interested, then we want you. And they said, well, do you have any questions for us? And so I asked them about the company, and they said that they were a smaller subsidiary of a larger holding company called Miu Holdings, and that Miu Holdings was led by a Korean husband and wife, and as I asked them about it, they had all these different areas that they were having companies in. I said, well, do you have an entertainment division? And they said that they do, but they haven't done much with it yet. But that Jackie, the wife in the husband-wife couple, was very interested in animation. And she was actually there in the offices that day and asked if I wanted to meet Jackie. So I said, yes, I would love to meet Jackie. And they brought her in, and she spoke limited English, but they translated into Korean and showed her my binder. And as we were discussing things, she explained to me that she wanted to make animated films, and then she asked me if I could make films like Frozen. And I said, yes, that's what we do. We're hired by Disney to make their movies look great. We're hired by Warner Brothers, and my partner had worked on Shrek. He was modeling producer for Ants, and really that's what we do. And as she started to explain her dreams and what she wanted to do, she was kind of in tears, and she said that her goal was to create great films that show children that God is loving. And I thought, how amazing is this? I'm sitting in this room and speaking with somebody that wants to make these films right at the point where I committed to God that I would do whatever He wanted me to do, not what I want to do. And He started to open this door. And then at the end of the conversation, she asked me, she said, well, if I create an animation company, will you lead it and be the CEO? In that first
meeting. And so I said, yes. And of course I will. And then I met her husband a week later. He was in Korea at the time, came back to America. I met him. He liked me, liked the idea, and we did it. We set up Genesis Animation, and we started the creation of this film. And so that's the first miracle. That's something that never could have been planned. I couldn't have planned that. And then we moved forward on this movie. And miracle after miracle has happened with this. We created a story, which it usually takes a long time to get together a full story, but within 3 days, the whole story was in treatment form. It took me another 2 months to put together the full screenplay. But during the screenplay, I hired other people. We started the concept art. We had the main characters. We put this whole thing together. And so I'll do some other video logs that give you details about the story, how it came together, what it is, and then also the business behind it. But the project keeps developing. So anyway, it started as a miracle, and it's continued to be a miracle. Now we're in the stages of raising and bringing in the second round funding on this project, and the interest is amazing. Everyone that sees the project wants to be a part of it. It's been an incredible experience, and I'm excited about where it's headed.